So we're here with?
Katon from Hirax.
Right. Katon, how did you get interested in music in the first place? What was the turning point for you?
Hearing Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly when I was a kid. My family's always had records around, Ray Charles, all kinds of different music. So I used to sneak into my dad's record collection and listen to his albums. That's how it started.
I did the same, man.
Yeah. It's good influence because you learn their history and then you take it upon yourself to get into newer music as you get older, but that's how it all started.
What about those heavier sounds? When did that come?
Right around Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, when I got into those bands, and Thin Lizzy, those three bands pretty much took it over the top, and then I just never looked back. I just wanted heavier music from that point on, but it would definitely be Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Thin Lizzy. Those were like the beginning of when I started hearing the heaviest stuff that I latched on to.
What was the initial attraction of the heavy music for you?
I'd never heard anything like it, and also because I was a pretty high-strung child, I had a lot of energy. So I liked the energy of heavy metal. That was the whole thing. Heavy metal music, I could just relate to it.
At what point did you think you could be part of it?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't even know if anybody's asked me that before. I was at school one day and some guys were talking about putting a band together and they asked me if I could sing and I said, yeah. And next day I went and bought a microphone. Little kid going into I went into a music store, found a microphone, bought it, and then I started playing in bands. Right around when I was 13, that started, yeah.
At that time, the underground scene was really opening up in the U.S.
Yeah.
How did you kind of become a part of it?
Got into tape trading. We were buying albums of imports, and the British new wave of heavy metal hit, and tape trading was right around that time too. So we just to get more music of bands that were kind of undiscovered, demo tapes and live tapes. We just started trading with people all over the world, and one of my first pen pals was Tom G. Warrior from Celtic. Well, actually back then Hellhammer. We started tape trading, and that just led to me trading with more people. And I was really good friends with Metallica back when they were doing garage demos, and then they finally did the No Life Till Leather. And tape trading was just my thing, and that's how I found out about more underground music.
It's funny you mentioned Tom Warrior because he was the one who designed Hirax logo.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Well, we became pen pals, which I don't even know if people talk about that anymore, but where you write letters and you send cassette tapes. And I sent him a tape of our demo, the first Hirax demo, and he saw the logo and he didn't really like it. He's like, I can do something better for you. So I was like, sure. And like 2 weeks later, he sent the Hirax logo that we use now to this day. We still use the same logo that he designed. So thank you to Tom G. Warrior.
Are you still keeping in touch with Tom?
I see him once in a while. We don't talk all the time, but every time I see him, it's like seeing a brother again. Like we have a long friendship. We've known each other since at least 1984, minimum. Probably even before that, but officially I would say 84, we became really good friends. So whenever I see him, it's always a pleasure, and he's one of the coolest dudes I've ever known in the heavy metal scene. And I should just say as a friend, he's a great guy.
Excellent. So now back to Hirax. When did that group of friends that began a band become Hirax?
84 was officially when we became Hirax, and we did the first 4-track demo tape, and that just spawned everything. And then we got a letter from Brian Slagle from Metalblade Records because he had gotten a copy of our tape because he was also tape trading too, and he liked it, and he offered us a deal to do the Metal Massacre record, which was where we started. And then after Metal Massacre, we did this is our first album, Raging Violence, and that started everything for us. After this record came out, our lives were never the same.
What was it like making that record?
It was an amazing process because we were so young. We didn't know that. Like now, the process is way different, but we probably recorded that record in 3 days. Yeah. Wow. Over a weekend, yeah. 3 days.
Now looking back at it, what do you think about the music and everything you did?
I'm proud of it. I think, you always have to kind of revisit where you started. And when I go back, it's amazing because we were so young, full of a lot of energy. It's a good memory because it was our first time working with a professional producer, a guy named Bill Matoyer. And I have nothing but fond memories of it.
And by the way, what is Hirax?
That's another good question. This guy's nailing it. Basically, I was in a restroom where there was some wallpapering, and I came across this thing that said Hirax on it, and I read it, and it was two things. It was a small furry animal from Africa, like just this little animal. It's kind of like bigger than a rabbit, kind of like similar to a jackalope. I don't know if you know what a jackalope is, but kind of like that. And it's a descendant of the elephant family, which makes it even more bizarre. And then the other thing is it was also a bug repellent for killing mosquitoes. So I thought perfect for a band name. So I got it off. Basically, I got it off of a bathroom wall. The name.
Wow, I gotta tell you a story because I came across in the high school class, watching a movie, I believe in biology class or science, and there was an animal, Hirax.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, it can be, and I'm like, you will go down.
Yeah,
There's me breaking out into Hirax.
That's basically where it came from, that animal, and also just that it was a bug repellent. I thought both were cool,
Very good. Now, your vocal style, you said that you basically said, I can sing and bought a microphone.
Yeah.
How did you go about developing your vocal style, and who are your influences?
Back then, it was a few different guys. Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, obviously. Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, especially the first 4 albums. Klaus Meine from Scorpions, I used to listen to them a lot. And another guy by the name of Biff from Saxon. So those were kind of my earliest influences. I mean, when the British New Wave came in, obviously Paul Di'Anno. I loved the first 2 Iron Maiden albums. To me, are like blueprints, of heavy metal. So those are like the early influences,
When the album came out, how much push support did you receive from Metalblade?
I think we got a great push because we were mixed in with a lot of bands. Or at that time there was not so many bands on Metalblade, so there was bands like Trouble, which we're here in Chicago tonight. So there was Trouble, who we really liked a lot. We thought they were a great band. Another band called Voivod we loved. Celtic Frost, obviously, and Hellhammer. Destruction. So it was like the early days of Metalblade when obviously Metalblade had worked with Metallica and Armored Saint. So those were like kind of the bands that we kind of came up with. So to be in that mix was good for us. Mm-hmm. And it's also what the band does. Like if we would have done, especially in those days, we should have toured more because I think
that's my next question.
Yeah,
that the band was hardly visible.
Yeah, we didn't tour.
Why?
I don't know. I think we were just like, we didn't think we had to. We didn't realize that touring helped so much. Obviously now we've learned a lot. We tour a lot more than we ever did. But yeah, we probably should have toured a lot more. We just didn't know. The perfect word is we were rookies. We were really young,
Mm-hmm. The next album.
Yes.
Which would be, can you show that and
here
say?
we go. Second album.
Yep.
Hate, Fear, and Power. 1986. Mm-hmm. Released by Metalblade Records. This was an interesting record to make because the record label wanted a new record, but we didn't really have that much material. So
it's a short album.
Yeah, we were like, well, we should do like a mini EP, They just wanted us to hurry up and get some, because the momentum, like once you release a new record, people want the next record. So the momentum was there, and then we recorded that. But unfortunately, we kind of disintegrated because we just weren't getting along as a band. Like not too long after that record, we pretty much broke up, but not for very long. It's funny when you start putting out music, you start realizing that there are people that really appreciate your music, and then you feel an obligation to put out more records. So it was always the fans are what kept us going. So we started doing more stuff again, but that was an interesting record.
Very lucky because there are a lot of bands that had good demos that never really got to make a record.
Yeah. I mean, even now, I'm much more appreciative of that I've been able to do this. To be able to play music and create music, and touring. I'm very lucky. I'm fortunate. So I feel humbled and honored to be able to come out and play concerts for the fans.
Now, after that album, you guys left Metalblade, right?
Yeah.
I think you made a demo blasted in Bangkok, which was like the last thing. And what happened then?
I think we were just too crazy. We were another problem too with a lot of young bands, especially if you're experimenting with drinking and partying and stuff, drugs, whatever. It can make you not get along. You might not be seeing eye to eye anymore just because you're too drunk. Some band members aren't getting along. So that's kind of what was going on. We weren't getting along, which is a shame because we probably should have thought about it, But, you can't change your history. You can just try to make it better. So now what we do is we're just trying to continue on the legacy of the band. But yeah, we had some rough times in the early days. Probably right around 87, 88. That's when things started getting kind of weird. But I'm glad to be back, you know.
Afterwards, you came back with another band called Phantasm,
Yeah.
which was very interesting combination of players. Can you introduce who it was and what was that like?
Yeah, it was myself, Ron McGovney, who was the original bass player for Metallica, Gene Hoglan on drums from many bands, but Dark Angel, Death, Testament now. He's been in tons of bands. He's like a machine. And a few younger musicians that we had just, they were young and we started playing with them. It was a great band. We had a lot of fun, but that was another short-lived thing because I went back to Hirax not too long after Phantasm. But I'm very proud of that record. We did a demo, 6 songs, and then we released it later on as a record with some live tracks. But that was a very fun record to do. It was actually probably the easiest just because we were just having fun.
Why didn't that work out for a longer amount
We
of time?
probably should have. Just another thing. I mean, maybe it was just a difficult time at that point in my life. I think just misunderstanding each other as musicians and not talking it out. Like a lot of times people are so hot-headed they just break up and don't talk. We probably should have talked. But that was a really good band. I think we could have probably created a lot more good stuff if we would have stuck together. But I have no ill will towards those guys. Those guys were great to play with. I still see Gene Hoglan to this day, and he's a great guy, great drummer. You know?
Afterwards, there was like 10 years silence.
Yeah.
What did you do during that time?
10 years
I
was
mean, 90s were confusing times, as it was.
It was good for me. I actually needed to kind of step back from the band and actually learn more about the business of being a musician because there's 2 sides to it. There's the business side and there's also the just playing and having a good time and, you know, creating music. But I took 10 years off just to learn more about the business. I went and worked at record labels. I worked in record stores, which was the best experience I could have ever had, was working in those stores and working at those record labels because I learned a lot about booking bands and touring and setting up record deals. I learned, it was a good, so the 10 years off was actually to do more research, and then when I came back it made it easier to play music again because I knew more.
So what was the spark to get you back into the music?
Well, you can't see her, she's off camera, but my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, when we first got together, she was going through like letters. I had a bunch of mail, fan mail. And
I'm sure a few came from me as well.
Yeah, which I appreciate. It's always been the fans, but my wife was like, "You're getting all these letters, man. You should be playing. Why don't you play again?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't really think it's worth it." And she's like, "Well, let me do this. Let me see if I can burn some of these CDs because the original first 2 albums on one CD, she burned them and sold like 5,000 of them. Some crazy number, which I couldn't believe it. And I was like, I guess people still care. So that's why I came back. I was like, yeah, I'll give it another shot. And I've been doing it ever since. So
Okay.
I'm glad I came back. And it's been the funnest time in my life, you know, being able to play the music, travel with my wife, and I'm playing with a bunch of great guys in my band. So I'm very fortunate.
There were a few EPs.
Yeah.
You kind of went step by step. The first one was the Spaz Hirax split.
Yeah.
What do you think it did for you?
It helped a lot because it was another time where I didn't really think anybody cared. And I got a phone call from this band in San Francisco called Spaz, and they were like, "Hey, we're doing a single. We want to do a split single. Will you guys be the B-side?" And I go, "Well, I don't have any new material." They go, "Well, there's the Blasted in Bangkok demo. There's 3 songs on there, so can we take one of those?" And I was like, "Sure." But I had no idea that this record would come out and it sparked a whole new interest in the band. We had a whole new fan base because a lot of people back at the time didn't realize this new style of music, which was called power violence, was going to catch on, and a whole new audience of younger generation of kids are now hip to Hirax because of Spaz. So I have to say thank you to Spaz for thinking of us and basically re-kickstarting our future and our career.
The next EP was El Diablo Negro, and at that point you were a little bit more ready.
Yeah. I was slowly getting back into it. We went and actually recorded El Diablo Negro for like $25 in a chicken coop in the back of a friend of mine's garage, actually his house, and that was another thing that just helped. I mean, we started doing recordings again and people were interested, and we got a really good write-up in a Terrorizer magazine in England, and more people started writing to us to, you know, get more of our music, and one day we were actually at a concert. I got invited to this concert by this band called Cannibal Corpse. They were like, come out and see us play. And there were people there from Century Media, and they were like, we've been looking for you. They couldn't find me. I guess I had gone underground. And they were like, we want to get your records for distribution. So Century Media started distributing our records, and that just took us to another level. So
The next EP was Barrage of Noise.
yeah,
Again,
it just started getting us more up there. We recorded that cheaply too. That was like a $200 recording, which bands don't normally do that, but we've just been, I guess, fortunate that we've had friends that had studios, and that came out and it just helped even more. And then we got a phone call from Bang Your Head Festival in Germany, and that's when it really took us to another level. So yeah, the Barrage of Noise EP helped a lot.
how did you go about finding people to play with you to be the new Hirax?
That was kind of tough. I mean, I was always looking around, but finding people that you can kind of coexist in a band with is not always that easy. So been, trying different musicians, but what really helped was I had a friend that was driving by my house one day, and he had a guitar player in his car. He stopped to talk to me, and that guitar player turned out to be the guy I'm playing with now, Lance Harrison. And so I found Lance through a mutual friend, and then Lance's brother played bass. And I was like, hey, you gotta have your brother come down, and we started doing demos in my house, and that's when we started getting ready to do an EP called Assassins of War, and that's basically where we're at now. From that point, we got that lineup, and we've just been touring ever since.
Then came the next full-length album, finally.
Let's see what we got here. Probably this one.
Yep, that's the one. New Age of Terror. Now,
Yeah.
how did the public react? Because that was the official big return.
This was a hell of a response because we got an offer from a label in Europe, and then we already knew we had a strong fan base in Europe, but we had never really been touring through Europe. So this came out, I think, around 2004.
Yeah.
And it changed. I mean, it's always been a gradual thing for us, like where the band just kept picking up more momentum. So each record has kind of been like that for us. Like the more we release records, the bigger the fan base gets, and I can't complain. Like this record started a whole new chapter in our career.
Okay, and that was not the last chapter because there
No.
were two more records. Can
Yeah.
you talk about those?
Yes, this next one here, El Rostro de la Muerte, which was kind of a little bit of a tribute to South America, because we always had been getting a lot of mail from South America, countries like Colombia, Chile, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, many countries that from there always followed Hirax. So we did this record and we toured through South America, and that was phenomenal. Like the fan base that we have there is probably the strongest we have all over the world. They're rabid fans and they're diehard. So to South America, from the heart, Katon says hello. But that wasn't the end. So
No.
we started, once we got back from South America, we started working on this record, which finally came out, called Immortal Legacy. This is our most recent album. And it's all formats, comes on vinyl, really nice packaging, vinyl CD. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're just touring in support of this still, but we're working now to get ready to do a new record. And it's just great to see that the legacy continues. The fans keep coming out to the shows. We have the most diehard fans, and they've been supportive. They've bought all of our merchandise, all of our records for many years. So that's basically, we owe it to the fans. Our fan base is what's kept us alive.
How would you say the music had changed over the years?
Well, we obviously you progress because you get better at playing, you get better at singing it, and even writing songs. I mean, we're still based out of the same, our history from where we come from. We're still we're a hardcore underground metal band, but fortunately for us, we've been able to play with bigger bands and tour and I would say where we're at now is we're still the same band, but with a lot more weapons. And what I mean by that is there's technically we've gotten better, but we still haven't forgotten our roots. We still stay true to the fast speed thrash metal thing that we've always done. But I think we've just progressed. We've gotten better.
What about your vocals? How did you maintain your voice over all these years?
Well, that's been a lesson. You learn from touring, especially that you can't party every night. Like I still drink and I still party a little bit, but nothing like I used to. As you get older, you got to take better care of your voice. basic things like drinking water, getting sleep, not partying all night long, and then trying to show up to a show to play. Because also I feel a responsibility to the fans. Like even tonight or earlier today, people were asking me, hey, when you want to come out and drink? And it's like, I'll have some drinks, but after the show is when we really party. You have to remember that the fans deserve a great show, so we try to always take care of ourselves and give them 100%. But after we play, that's the time to celebrate and party.
Now, being in an underground band like Hirax probably is never easy. What would you say were some biggest challenges you guys experienced over the years?
Playing shows every night, doing 23 shows in 25 days. But that's nothing to complain about because we're lucky. A lot of bands would give their left nut to be where we're at and touring and going out on the road. But just, I would say the biggest challenge is taking care of yourself. It's not easy because you're traveling constantly. You're on and off airplanes. You're in and out of tour buses and vans. And the weather too, because especially as a singer, going through cold and hot elements, it changes the way you can sing. So you just basically got to pay attention to your body and take care of yourself. But at the same time, it's cool to have a good time and party. But you got to remember that the fans, and I have to say this again, that the fans deserve a great show every night that you play. So try to give your best show every night.
Finally, what's the best thing about being in Hirax?
Meeting the fans. I can't say that enough. The fans are what it's all about. I'm a fan of heavy metal too myself, so I know how it feels. But that they give us the energy. Like when we meet, they're so into it and they're so crazy about the music. So when you meet them, and it doesn't matter what language we all speak, because some people we meet we can't even really speak because they speak a different language than we speak. But through the music, we always can somehow figure out each other. It's like, that's what's great about music. It brings everybody together. But for me, the most important and best part of it is meeting the fans.
Thank you.
My pleasure. We'll see you soon. Metal forever.